of the 2020 nomination contest. Good to have you on the show this morning.
Governor, thanks so much for being with us. Obviously, you're engaged in a long shot campaign, but we, of course, all remember back in 91 when George H.W. Bush was in the high 80s and Bill Clinton decided to step into the race. So anything is possible, but still you're facing long odds. How do you break through to Republicans that they deserve better and that you're the candidate that can deliver to them the leadership they need?
Well, I think it's one voter at a time, and I think it's good for the country to have somebody put the president to his proofs, as it were. Maybe ask him some why questions, like why do you think it's good to insult our military allies? Why do you praise dictators? Is it because you wish the United States was more dictatorial? I'm afraid that might be the case. Why are you so angry about everything all the time? As was said earlier, everyone is fearful of the president's wrath. Bob Woodward's book was called Fear, and I think that seems to be the president's strategy. I've said that I think this is a case of the emperor's new clothes, and somebody had to raise their hand and say the emperor does have new clothes. So, you know, a year is a long time in politics, and if you look at history, the New Hampshire primary has gone up and down, and the polls have gone up and down. So, I'm going to camp out up here as well as other parts of the country and make the case, and I think the case is very much there to be made.
So, Governor, you've been up in New Hampshire several times prior to your official announcement, and I figure, you might have some support in a couple of streets in Concord, a couple of streets in Hanover. But throughout the rest of the state, when you've been up there, when you've been speaking to the supposed base, his vaunted base, do you get any resonance in anything you say during the course of your talking to different people?
I get resonance from everybody that I talk to. Now, they're not the leadership of the Republican State Party, but those people are all taking dictation from Washington, and they're not going to be the people who are so numerous that they cast votes that's going to decide the primaries or the election. They're just the party bosses, if you will. And my strategy is going to be to enlarge the electorate, to bring in independents, to bring in millennials, Gen Xers, suburban female voters. I did that in Massachusetts, and the independents came in for me 6-1. So that's a strategy that would not put so much weight on today's polls.
Governor, from your campaign ad, it looks pretty clear that what you're running on is the president's character and how you see that as being unfit for office. But many Trump supporters, we know, also have questions about the president's character, but they feel that his policies and their support and his support of them makes it worth keeping him in office. How do you split people who have already decided, look, we know we don't like many of the things that he does and he says, but we like the policies that he's implementing?
What you sometimes hear people say is, I like the president's tax cut. So do I, by the way. But I don't like his style. But it's not style. When you're as angry all the time and uncurious as this president is, it goes beyond style. It goes to policy and substance, and I think he comes out in the wrong place. For example, the president insists that global warming is a hoax. Well, does he think those scientists who did those measurements are making money off the deal and lying about the results of the scientific examination? It just betrays a lack of homework and not really thinking ahead about what to do. We're going to have the White Mountains with no snow. We're going to have the oceans are going to rise. We're going to have all our seacoasts rearranged when that polar ice cap melts if nobody does anything about this. So I think to say it's a hoax and therefore that's an excuse for doing nothing, I think that's utterly irresponsible, and it's not style, it's substance.
John Meacham.
Governor, you're a well-known happy warrior in these climates. But how do you
better a happy warrior than a miserable narcissist?
Well, that's and boy, that'll get the country going, sir. But that's sort of my question: is Gene McCarthy, Ronald Reagan, Pat Buchanan? They were leading insurgent campaigns. Your pitchfork is let's bring back the establishment. Your pitchfork is more of a 7-iron, isn't it? How do you how do you get insurgent energy when you're saying let's return to a centered place?
I'm not saying let's return to anything other than the values of the party of Abraham Lincoln. I'm saying let's think ahead about what to do about artificial intelligence and robotics and drones and all the jobs we're going to lose. And let's make sure those people, the displaced workers, have the education they need to get the replacement jobs, which are going to be higher paying and have more technical requirements. So I don't hear anybody talking about that. Those should be Trump voters in a way, displaced workers. But I don't see anyone paying attention to that in Washington because they're too busy screaming at each other.
So, Governor, what's the one policy that you would implement first to help those